Gray was our older son, and I think incredibly bright, had big questions about the world, and when we started to try to teach him to read, it was just a mess. I undertook a pretty detailed review of the two alternatives, keeping him where he was in a place that he was happy and had great friends, and with a school that said they could support him, or Benchmark, where we knew it was a fantastic school that specialized in dyslexia. And the approach that I took is that I went into the classroom in both environments. In the private school environment, going into second grade, the number of teachers goes down to 1 per classroom, and in that particular school there were 15 kids, and you could see that she would have a hard time necessarily getting to each child. And personally, I felt like my son might be there trying to even understand what the project was, and staring out the window while she made her way around to a certain number of kids and then moved on. In the Benchmark classroom, the first thing that the teacher did after describing what the project was she asked the students to raise their hands and say what strategies were they going to use to approach that task. And the hands went up and they talked about what strategies and approaches, and she said, and what are you going to do if you get to a word that you don't understand? And what are the approaches you're going to use? And they talked. Then they broke down into small groups and they talked about their strategies. And then when they started the actual project, there were 3 teachers in the room, a teacher and 2 assistants for 10 kids. For me, I realized that this was a completely different experience for Gray, and that there was no way that he was going to be able to look out the window and fake that he understood what was going on, and that he was going to have to engage and learn the content, and more importantly, learn the strategies for life. Rolling the clock forward, he did stay through 8th grade. We actually then moved our other younger son into Benchmark a couple of years later. His profile was very different. He had ADHD and also auditory processing, but we found that the executive functioning coaching that Gray was getting and some of the just support he was receiving in the classroom would translate to really any child, quite frankly.
I think they loved their experience, and they have great feelings about Benchmark. Both boys going off to do exciting things. Gray's now in college at Dartmouth. Gunnar is in his senior year in high school, but is committed to Yale. So I think they look back on the experience that they had at Benchmark as really foundational for them, and helping them develop certain skill sets that they would need as they moved out of Benchmark and into high school and then towards college.
A great story is that when Gray, who went to Benchmark from 2nd grade all the way through 8th grade, was retested for his dyslexia in high school, he tested as dyslexic as he had in 1st grade when we first tested him. And it was the same tester. And interestingly, what she said was that even though he's still as dyslexic, that his results were phenomenal because she saw him in the testing using every strategy that he would have learned at Benchmark. And she said, he is such a Benchmark kid. He's using every approach and skill to get through these tests. And while he's still testing as a dyslexic, she could see the advancements that he'd made. And for parents that are considering sending their child, our son almost got a perfect on his SATs. And he did need the extra time, and I would say when kids are at Benchmark and then they transition into other schools, as long as they're self-advocating and taking advantage of the structures that are in place and extra time, they can thrive and do really well. I don't think he would have gotten that SAT score without what he learned at Benchmark, because it gave him that ability to really work through problems and have the tenacity and the strategies, word identification and things like that to earn that score that he worked so hard to achieve. But I think it's just a testimony to Benchmark in action. These learning differences don't go away, but the children can learn to cope and manage them. And as a parent, I think our main goals are to put our children in situations where they can thrive and that set them up for the future. And I think Benchmark really accomplished that for both of our children.